President Trump's 60 Minutes interview came just a few days after his face-to-face meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. CBS News' Nora O'Donnell asked President Trump about the long-term relationship between the two countries.
Our own intelligence agencies say the Chinese have infiltrated parts of the American power grid and our water systems. They steal American intellectual property and Americans' personal information. They bought American farmland. How big of a threat is China?
It's like everybody else. We're a threat to them, too. Many of the things that you say we do to them. Look, this is a very competitive world, especially when it comes to China and the U.S., and we're always watching them, and they're always watching us. In the meantime, I think we get along very well, and I think we can be bigger, better, and stronger by working with them as opposed to just knocking them out.
Let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. Olivia, what does the U.S. relationship with China look like going forward, and where can we see potential sources of disagreement?
Lindsay, it's good to be with you. The president really praising President Xi Jinping of China after he met with him last week, saying that the relationship between the two countries is good. They signed a one-year trade deal that really eliminated some of those tariffs, gave some relief to American soybean farmers who are struggling as China has not been buying any of their harvest this season. But the president's saying that the relationship is strong and he's using tariffs to his advantage in that case. To your question, though, about potential sources of disagreement, two things I want to point your attention to. One being Taiwan, which we have talked about before. Of course, the issue of Taiwan is one that consistently comes up when we're talking about the U.S. China relationship as it relates to the one China policy. President Trump, though, said last week it didn't even come up at all. This has been a quintessential source of disagreement between the U.S. and China, as the U.S. has been urging China not to invade Taiwan, not to even mess with the country and their infrastructure or encroach upon them as they have been. But the president says it's really not an issue, and he even remarked that it's much closer to China than it is with the U.S., kind of the same line of argument that we've heard from the president when it relates to Ukraine and the Russia war. But certainly interesting that he brought that up in this case. Another thing I want to bring your attention to is the issue of chips, which the president says could be potentially a source of problem with the U.S. and China in the future. He says that they have been asking for those chips from NVIDIA. He's saying, though, that the U.S. has 40 or 50% of the chip market, and that's going to grow over the next several years. And that's important because that gives the U.S. an edge in the artificial intelligence development race. So this is certainly something to watch as two potential areas where the relationship between the U.S. and China could really go astray.
And hours before he met with President Xi, President Trump said he wanted to resume testing the country's nuclear weapons. Here's what he told Nora about that.
Are you saying that after more than 30 years, the United States is going to start detonating nuclear weapons for testing?
I'm saying that we're going to test nuclear weapons like other countries do, yes.
But the only country that's testing nuclear weapons is North Korea.
Well,
China and Russia.
No, Russia's testing nuclear weapons.
My understanding...
And China's testing them, too. You just don't know about it.
That would be certainly very newsworthy. My understanding is what Russia did recently was test essentially the delivery systems for nuclear weapons, essentially missiles, which we can do that, but not with nuclear warheads.
Russia's testing and China's testing, but they don't talk about it.
We should note China's denied testing its nuclear weapons. Have we gotten any more clarity about what these U.S. tests will look like?
Well, actually, ahead of his interview, Chris Wright, who's the energy secretary, was on Fox News, where he was asked about that Truth Social post where the president said they're going to be testing nuclear weapons. And he said it's not in the traditional sense that you and I would think of, you know, the big mushroom clouds perhaps out in the desert. It won't look like that. But essentially what they'll be testing is the systems to make sure that the nuclear weapons and their systems that they work on are up to par. That is what they're going to be testing, not necessarily detonating a nuclear weapon, which would be a massive headline. Lindsay.
Olivia Rinaldi, thank you.